Okay guys, I'm gonna take Wanda right now, and I'm with my dad.
So my mom had an older brother named Uncle Pat. They did everything together. So when he joined Taekwondo at age 9, it didn't take long before she joined him. When he got his first black belt, she was still at blue belt, but before she could get any higher in rank, they moved. My mom started focusing on other things, but my Uncle Pat continued to pursue his martial arts. He achieved blue sash in Cobra Kai Kung Fu. No, not that Cobra Kai, the real Shaolin Kung Fu Cobra Kai. And then he switched schools again, and he achieved his 8th section, basically a brown belt, in Chung Mu Kwan, a synthesis of 8 different martial arts and 18 weapons. And no, it wasn't a cult, at least not the school he went to. Then they moved again, this time to Wisconsin, where my mom met my dad, and they had me. It didn't take long before I started watching martial arts shows and movies, like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Three Ninjas, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I started mimicking what I saw, playing around with toy weapons, and getting tips and pointers from my mom and Uncle Pat. And then eventually, at age 9, I told my mom if she didn't sign me up for class that I'd beat her up. She told me to f*** off. Just kidding. I think she got the idea after meeting Master Wasmunds and hearing about his class, Royal J. West Flying Dragons in Burlington. She asked me if that was something I'd be interested in. I said yes, and she signed us up. So we got these handbooks, our cool dough box, and our white belts. Master Wasmunds told my mom she could continue as a blue belt, but she chose to start over with me at white instead. After a few months of attending class, we had our first test, and we passed. We got our yellow stripes and continued going to class and practicing at home together, and eventually we had our second test, and we passed again. Uncle Pat was there this time. He took the pictures. We got our yellow belts and continued attending. My mom made this cool stained glass South Korean flag for the Dojang, and as a thank you to Master Wasmunds. He ended up putting it in the 3rd floor window where classes were held. We had another test, and again, we passed. But after we got our green stripes, money started getting tight. My mom had me choose between class and Boy Scouts. And at the time, all my friends were in Boy Scouts, so that's what I chose. Hey look, there's Johnny K before we started hanging out. He was a year older than me. After a while, we stopped going to Boy Scouts too. I don't remember why exactly, but I think it was getting kinda lame for whatever reason. I continued training in martial arts on my own, learning anything and everything I could. From movies, Bruce Lee books, documentaries, Shaolin books, philosophies, etc. Anything I can get my hands on. I was also getting lessons from Uncle Pat still, but mostly random techniques, weapon manipulations, and him just correcting my form on things I was learning. I even had my friends train with me occasionally. Some of them had even been to Master Wasmunds. I started practicing with real weapons. No, not those much. Those are complicated. I started doing sword or lightsaber fighting with wooden swords. My Uncle Pat even gave me a Lord of the Rings sword for each one of the 4 books I read, including The Hobbit. We did a lot of crazy training too, like rock wars or drop-breaking ceramic tiles, not just punching bag stuff. But eventually my love of art shifted to other arts. I got more into drawing, even painting, then poems, even wrote a few books throughout the years. Then I got into music and the Beatles with my mom. I learned to play harmonica, guitar, bass, drums, piano, learned to sing, and most importantly, started writing songs. And I wrote tons of songs. I loved it. I still do. Then I started a band. Started playing shows, recording home demos, even making videos, music and comedy. Then, unfortunately, at age 49, my dad passed away, and that was rough. But I had my mom and Uncle Pat to help me get through it. I moved into my dad's old house and kept on playing with the band. Though members came and went and came again, we kept going. Then I met a girl. Her name's Nikki, but her real name's Dominique. She did kung fu when she was little, but not for very long. Then, about a year later, my mom and I got real sick. I started to get better, and I moved back in with her. But the next day, at age 44, she had passed away, and that was even rougher. But I still had Uncle Pat, who was my godfather, and the girl I met, Nikki, to help me through it. Things didn't exactly go smoothly. We ended up losing the house, but eventually me and Nikki ended up moving in with our now very good friend, Pat. The band was doing great, but due to personal reasons, Johnny had to stop playing for a while. We kept going, doing bigger and bigger shows for more and more people. I kept drawing and started getting back into the martial arts. I even built a salmon ladder, and failed on the salmon ladder. Then Nikki gave me the best gift I ever got, a little girl named Starlynne. She's the best, and having her changed the way I was thinking about life and myself. Then, one day, I was doing open mic night at the coffee house in Burlington, and as I was leaving, I looked up and noticed my mom's stained glass South Korean flag in the third floor window. You know, the one that she made for Master Wasmunds. So I decided to go up and talk to him. And after talking to him, I decided to come back to class. I got a new dobak and a new green stripe belt, since I was a lot bigger now than I was at 10 years old. And after a few months, I took my first test as an adult, and I got my green belt. I got to break a board too, with a basic right punch. That got me pumped up, so I started looking for all our old Flying Dragon stuff, and I found I still had almost all of it, including our old testing sheets and certificates, our dobaks, shin pads, all my old belts, and most of my mom's. Since I had all 5 of my belts, I decided to make a belt rack and fill it with all 11 belts from Flying Dragons, in honor of my mom starting us in Master Wasmunds class. I also got this cool new black dobak. I kept on training, I tested for my blue stripe and got it, and I also kept playing shows with the band and talking martial arts with Uncle Pat, only now Starlynne was there too. I got my blue belt and started getting Star involved. Starlynne, come on. Come on. Take it.
Never steal again.
Grab it. Oh, you're not going to do it now? Grab it. Hold it.
See you, adventures.
No, pull this side.
Seems you learned something from your life, now.
Pull it.
When you walk. So listen.
Good job, Starlynne. Then my drummer David joined class with me, and that was awesome while it lasted. Uncle Pat even helped us pay for it for a while, but David ended up leaving around green belt. I tested for brown stripe and broke another board, this time with a left-hand punch. Star didn't get to make a video for this one, but we rebuilt the belt rack thinner to make the belts fit more uniform. I kept playing with these guys, and I also started a side project, and Johnny K joined me in it. I even made the logo a 9-sided star because of Starlynne, and the fact that her mother, and my names all have 9 letters in them. Starlynne, Dominique, and Sebastian. I then got my brown belt. I was getting real close to finishing what my mom and I started all those years ago. Get all of it. You gotta get it all. Get it all. Get this part too. Pull it. Good job. Nikki and Starlynne lived about an hour south of me at the time and couldn't join class with me, so I asked Master Wasmunds if I could start teaching them. Star was still too young, but I started teaching her mom. I gave her my mom's old dobak, and that's Star wearing my old dobak. I even tested Nikki for her yellow stripe with the help of Uncle Pat, and she did really good. While making this big dollhouse for Star to put her toys and books in, I also made Nikki a belt rack with placeholders, but unfortunately we stopped hanging out around that time. I'm still saving it in case she or Star wants it in the future though. Then I got my red belt, and I was only 1 belt away from finishing the belt rack, but I finally got all 9 GUP rank certificates, and I was pretty happy about that. Hey Starlynne, take off the red belt. Get it. How old are you, Star?
3.
You're 3. Okay, good job. Okay, cool.
Daddy.
Then, due to personal reasons and the pandemic, I stopped going to class for quite a while. I came back a few times for about a month at a time, give or take. We rebuilt the belt rack for a 3rd time to make it shorter and lighter. I started collecting weapons again with Star, toy weapons. I got a dragon tattoo for my life in Flying Dragons with Master Wasmunds and my mom and Uncle Pat, and our love for Lord of the Rings and medieval things. Then I got a lot more tattoos for my mom and dad, Uncle Pat and Star, and all my life up till then, including Johnny and all the day rollers. A couple years went by and I decided to go back, finish the belt rack, and finally get that black belt. I also started taking Star to class with me, and she loved it. This is her in class, secretly recording. And then it was time, the black belt test. It went very well, and I passed, despite having a healing back injury and being out of shape.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay, last one, Star, the black belt. Good job. That was quick. How old are you now? 6? Wow, it took a long time for me to get from red to black, huh?
Why is there something different about your hat?
What?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it a spider? It's a black belt! Ah!
That means you're black belt.
Aw, I love you, Star.
You black belt hat and you black belt.
I finally finished the belt rack, even though it took 22 years. I got to check off the final belt on all my cool checklists I made, and I framed not only my first Dan black belt certificate, but also all my mom and I's test sheets and certificates, with the very first ones we ever got in front. At my test, I messed up the board breaking because I was so exhausted. I tried the 1-inch punch, but I was standing wrong and it didn't break, twice. So Master Wasmunds switched to a board that wasn't as wide, and it broke first try. But that bugged me so much that I went and got 3 boards, the same as the ones we use in class, film myself doing it correctly, and show Star. I asked Uncle Pat to hold the board for me, and he was happy to help. He was actually so proud I got black belt that he offered to pay for the test. Anyway, on the first attempt, I pulled back a little too far, and I decided I had to do it again. The second attempt, I tried 2 boards just for fun. I wasn't mentally prepared for that, so we quickly went back to 1 board. I broke it, but I still pulled back a little bit. So for the third and final attempt, we set up in a better spot, and I did it perfectly. Let's see that again in slow motion. Nice. And that's it. My life in the martial arts so far.